snow clung to the edges of the pine trees like silent sentinels watching over the world below. Deep in the heart of Montana's frozen wilderness, a small log cabin stood alone, smoke curling softly from its chimney. Inside, Eli knelt by a rough-hewn wooden table that served as his altar. A single candle flickered beside a faded photo of a young soldier, his brother, gone now over a decade. Eli's hands were calloused, his flannel shirt worn thin at the elbows, his eyes holding years of solitude. He didn't pray often, not out loud. But tonight, the silence felt heavier than the snow outside. With the wind howling beyond the walls and the weight of another winter pressing in, he bowed his head. "I ain't asking for much," he murmured. "Not money, not even a wife. Just someone to share this quiet. Someone to come home to. I don't want to leave this world the same way I've lived in it, alone." The cabin creaked around him, as if it were listening. For years, Eli had chopped trees, hauled logs, and split wood for the town that had long since forgotten his name. He had come to accept his isolation as part of the deal. But still, some nights, like this one, something inside him stirred, a whisper, a longing, a prayer sent out into the vast, indifferent woods. He didn't expect an answer. But he sent the words anyway, like planting a seed in frozen ground and hoping spring might come. The wind bit sharper at the edge of town, where the forest gave way to gravel roads and rusted trucks. Eli rarely came in except for supplies, but something felt different that morning. As he loaded sacks of flour and coffee onto his sled, a commotion near the trading post caught his ear, raised voices, a crowd forming. He moved closer and saw a gaunt man arguing with the shopkeeper, gripping the arm of a young woman like she was a sack of grain. "She's strong," the man barked. "Can cook, clean, just need enough for the train." The girl, no older than 20, stood still, eyes burning, jaw set. People turned away, pretending not to see. The shopkeeper refused. "We don't do that here." Eli stepped forward before he could think. "How much?" he said quietly. The man named a price. Eli didn't blink. He handed over the bills, and the man released her without a glance back. The girl stared at Eli like he was just another buyer. "You own me now?" she asked coldly. "No," Eli said. "You're not property." He pointed to the sled. "You can ride back with me, or walk anywhere else. Just. I didn't want to leave you with him." She hesitated, then climbed onto the sled without a word. They rode in silence through the trees, snow falling softly around them. He didn't ask her name. He just drove, the forest swallowing their tracks behind them, two strangers, bound not by fate, but by a single, wordless act of kindness. Winter deepened, and with it, the rhythm of quiet days settled over the cabin. Mara spoke little at first, always watching, always waiting for some hidden cruelty to surface. But Eli never pressed, never pried. He gave her space, showed her how to stack kindling, how to sharpen a blade, how to spot deer tracks in the snow. She moved like someone expecting the floor to collapse beneath her, but each day, her steps grew steadier. Weeks passed. She mended old curtains, baked bread from scratch, even sang once, softly, not knowing Eli was nearby. He didn't say anything, just listened from the woodshed, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. In time, Mara began to laugh again, short bursts at first, like twigs snapping, then longer, freer. One evening, after supper, she stared into the fire for a long time. Then, almost in a whisper, she said, "I'm pregnant." Eli looked up slowly. Her voice didn't tremble, but her hands were clenched tight in her lap. "He never knew," she added. "He would have sold me sooner if he had." Silence stretched between them, thick and uncertain. Eli turned back to the fire, eyes glassy. "A child," he said finally. "Out here." He took a breath, voice catching. That's a kind of miracle." Mara blinked at him, unsure. But there was no judgment in his face, no pity, only something warm, something rare. That night, the cabin didn't feel quite so cold. For the first time in years, Eli left the lamp burning a little longer. The blizzard came without warning, thick snow and howling winds swallowing the forest in white. By dusk, the power lines were down, the radio silent, and the world outside had vanished into a blur. Inside the cabin, the fire crackled furiously as Eli secured the shutters. He turned to check on Mara and froze. She was doubled over, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "It's too soon," she whispered, panic rising in her eyes. Eli's heart pounded. He had felled trees in thunderstorms, faced wild bears, and once stitched his own leg shut after a saw slipped. But nothing had ever frightened him like this. Still, he nodded. "We'll get through it." He boiled water, laid blankets by the fire, and lit every candle in the cabin. Mara gripped his hand, teeth clenched, tears streaking her cheeks. Hours passed. Time blurred into pain and breath and trembling prayers. Then, just before dawn, a cry pierced the storm. Sharp. New. Alive. Eli held the baby, tiny, red, wailing, as if the whole world had been remade in his arms. His hands shook. He looked at Mara, exhausted and tearful, and then at the child. "He's perfect," she whispered. Eli swallowed hard, his voice breaking. "I prayed, for family. Didn't think it would come like this. But you both came." Outside, the wind still roared, but inside the cabin, something stronger had taken root. Amid firelight and falling snow, a lonely man cradled the miracle he'd never dared to believe would come true. Spring arrived quietly, as if afraid to disturb the peace that had settled over the cabin. The snow melted, revealing wildflowers pushing through the thawing earth. Birds returned to the trees, and laughter, bright, effortless laughter, spilled from the porch where Mara rocked her baby, wrapped in a quilt she'd sewn herself. Eli had built a cradle from pine, each corner sanded smooth, each piece carved with care. He wasn't the child's father by blood, but he was the one who woke in the night to rock him back to sleep, who carved wooden animals for him to grip with tiny hands. He worked the forest now with a different rhythm, felling trees for a home that echoed with new life, not silence. Mara, stronger with each passing day, tended a garden behind the cabin. She no longer flinched at kindness or silence. Sometimes she'd hum a tune while stirring stew, or tell stories of the life she hoped her son would have, safe, simple, and full of love. They were not a couple in the way people expected. There was no romance forced between them. What they shared was something quieter, deeper, born not from obligation but from choice, from healing, from shared survival. Eli sat on the porch one evening, the baby asleep in his arms, and watched the sun dip behind the trees. The silence that once haunted him now felt full, sacred. Sometimes, miracles don't arrive with fanfare. Sometimes, they come wrapped in blankets, carried by broken souls, and answered prayers whispered into cold, forgotten woods.